Good morning, everyone. So we are out this week on some training here with David. David's just bought this yacht and he's having a blast learning how to sail it and manage it, and how to do it solo as well, because he's going to be doing a lot of solo sailing over the course of him having the boat, which is one of the reasons he bought it, which is great. So we are going to come in, we're going to practice coming and getting fuel. Okay, so we're going to do a coming alongside at the Milner fuel dock on Brach. So we're coming alongside, starboard side too. Even though his fuel port is on the port side, we're going to come along starboard side too. Why? Because all of his controls, bow thrusting controls, throttle controls, everything are on starboard. Also, when he hits reverse, his prop walk is pulling his stern to port slightly. Now that's not actually a helpful thing on the way in, it's more of a helpful thing on the way out. So right now we're just, the long approach, we're setting up, getting the fenders ready, getting all the lines ready, getting everything organized before we get in. Now if you don't know about the Milner fuel dock, you can watch my video here that I did on this one, just for a bit of information about this fuel dock, where it is and how to approach it and how busy it gets. But we're coming in on a Sunday morning, Sunday midday, because we know no one's going to be fueling up today, so it's a good time to come in and practice and get fuel without a queue. So, hope you enjoyed the video and let me know in the comments what you think. So we are calling this coming alongside and refueling solo here, because he's going to be the only one managing the lines, managing the boat there. Now, for all you people that are like, hey, that's not solo, the fuel attendant helped you with your lines, 100% right. That's great, carry on. But effectively, this is what you can expect if you are on your own on the boat. Sometimes you're going to come into the fuel dock and you're going to get help, but sometimes you won't. So the whole procedure we're going to do is to set up in either of those situations. So here we're choosing to put, I've had David buy two of these big ball fenders. We're choosing to put this one right on the aft starboard quarter, okay? Because when we put our control line on and our stern quarter line, starboard quarter line is going to be our control line, and we drive against it, the stern can kick in, and I want that to protect everything so you don't have to worry about it at all. Then moving up, that's a long way on the bow. I probably wouldn't do that myself, but I love it. Okay, but he's setting up with a number of his normal fenders down the starboard side, and I've suggested the second ball fender for the approach goes here at midships. Now, the main reason for this is when you come alongside the fuel dock, often they have these vertical or diagonal rub strips to protect your boat from the concrete dock. The main issue with that is they're quite thick. Sometimes they're, I've got two hands here, so I do it from my head. Sometimes they're this wide, and your fenders slip between them, and then you end up rubbing on the dirty things on your boat that are there to look after it, and we don't like that. So having the big ball fender here means that if you really get this right, and you sit the boat with basically only the midships touching, then the ball fender is going to take all of the fendering, all of the impact from the dock, and none of the other fenders will actually do anything. They're just there for moral support. We're still going to add a few fenders all along the starboard side, and if you've sailed with me before, people say, how many fenders do I put out? The answer is all of them. Then we're going to set up our bow and stern lines for coming alongside. Beautiful day today. We are June in Croatia. This is Island Brach, and it's just lovely. Had a lovely coffee this morning and watched the Summer Blues boat come in and ruin stuff. Left that bay. Alright, so on the bow here, we're going to set up this line. Now, I always suggest having a 25-meter spring line for this bow line, so that when you then go to leave the dock, you can get off on your spring, you don't have to change it. We don't really have that in this situation, we're going to purchase it later. So here we are setting up our line. Now, David's going to do a cleat hitch on here. You can put a bow line in here if you want. You can do the cleat hitches. He's doing the backwards hitches that I don't like. That's fine. It's his boat, so that's fine. That's a big thing. We had a lot of controversy on the argument about cleat hitches versus bow lines and everything. Look, it's your boat. You choose what works for you. I have my way of doing things. I have my no-nos, and I have my like, yeah, I'm doing that. So don't worry about anyone else. And I'm in the way. It's not my boat, and I'm in the way. All right, now what we're going to do with this line. We're gonna hook it over the rail, nice, through the fair lead, and it's around everything, but it comes back into the boat and all the way down to midships or as far aft as you can get it, so that it's ready for either you to take from the dock when you step off with it, or the dock hand could just necessarily grab it. So we're going to put it right at midships here, and we're going to open the gate ready for exiting the yacht. And at some stage we're going to go back down and get the autopilot and into neutral, because we're now heading towards that boat and that land. But David's got it all under control. I love it. All right, well, open the bottom of the gate too, shall we? Or is it too hard? Ah, cool. So here I'll also show you one of Mahina's tricks for when she puts her lines on while David's correcting our course. I'll show you that trick. So if you've got even more line here, what I like to do is take it and lay it over like this. So if I had another 10 meters of line, I could do these loops like this, and I can go boom, 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 and do these loops, so that when that line is grabbed and pulled, it will just feed out very nicely, okay? And it means someone can grab the bunch or they can grab the tail. So I'd set that up like that, just so that's sitting and ready. Now, this is quite a light line. I tend to do it with heavier line so that they can hang down, and the weight holds it there. I've never had a problem, even in 15, 20 knots, of it blowing off. But that way, that's very easy and simple to grab, and it's gonna feed straight out. Now, full apologies, I do not have the drone for drone footage today. Number one, I lost one of my drones right there. It's too deep for me to dive and get it. It was the Mini 2, and I took it off out of my hand like I usually do. It flew up, and we were sailing away from it as we should, and it flew towards the Bimini, hit the Bimini, went into the sea, gone drone. And my bigger drone, my Mavic 2 Pro, that one, the last time I flew it in Comisia, when it came back, the battery had swelled up so much that it had opened, the battery had popped up out of the cradle by about 6 millimeters. That really scared me. I couldn't believe it was still in place and that it was still flying. Discussing the approach in this particular situation. Because the wind is at about 90 degrees to the dock, blowing us off, we're going to go for a more obtuse, more blunt angle, approaching the dock, so that when the turn happens, it's going to shunt us sideways into the fuel dock, well, onto the fuel dock, not into the fuel dock. All right, and knowing that the first thing we need to get on is our starboard quarter control line. That's the main one for my single-handed, getting that control line on. Now, there's no one coming out from the dock at the moment, so we're going to decide in a moment whether we try and do this ourselves, well, whether David tries to do it himself, which I think he can, because if it goes wrong, we're going to end up blow off. So all good. All right, so we just did a bit of reverse there to slow down. Now, we've got an issue here, is that down this end of the dock, we only have a ring. Now, it's very hard for single-handed. Yeah, down right on this end, we've only got a ring. Shallow alarms going off. And then we've got a bollard here, so that's the one he wants to go for in this case. Oh my God. 3.9. Depth below, okay. Okay, nice alongside there. This is a great position why we have this big ball fender right here and the big ball fender in the middle of the midships. All right, so in this case, we stopped aft of where we wanted to be, and it's okay, but we're going to have the feel of blowing off. I would have wanted to do that maneuver that David just did, which was brilliant, but have stopped with my stern right here so I could capture that cleat. But he's doing a great job of bringing the boat just along the fuel dock slowly and bringing it in. Now the wind's starting to capture us and blow us away from the dock. So we're going to look at his captive loop here and see if he grabs it nicely, because there's no attendant at Ina today for some reason. Well, there is. I can see them. They're right there.
They're sat watching.
Yeah, they're watching.
this way, you never have enough.
Hey, you got it. Now we've blown quite a way out here. We're going to see how David manages this because his stern's coming right close now. If I were him, I'd bow thrust to starboard now just to kick this bow over so that I can then drive against my line once it is on. All right, so he's on there. He can just hold it with one hand now so he can let it slip if he wants. And did you just intentionally knock it in with your foot?
I didn't have a free hand.
That was good, that was good. So now he's driving against his rudder and against that stern line, and look at it just pull us into the dock. And this is why we have this nice big ball fender at midships, because now it is taking all the pressure. Nothing else is actually touching. Now you're going to bounce away. You will bounce away when you do this. So has he gone out of gear? Ah, he went out of gear. Okay, so we're going to stay in gear. We're going to keep driving against that control line. Leave it in gear. Now, as discussed before this maneuver, he can turn a little bit to starboard to hold the bow in. All right, we're pressing against this. He leaves the helm. He takes his bow line. We're still driving against the control line at the back, and he can take the bow line to the cleat and secure it himself. And you can choose to set that to slip, come back to the boat, or just to cleat it off there at the moment. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So personally I would have gone back to the bow, but I like this. The only thing here is if he does this, it means you have to stay driving against the stern line in order to stay in this position. Though, yeah, so if he puts it on the bow, he doesn't have to do that. Oh my God, these alarms. Loving all the alarms on the 45. But see how the boat is just holding itself in position. You can see the wash coming out the back, just on that control line.
Oh, you. Hang on.
Nice.
Yeehaw, cowboy.
So I love this for an explanation, or for a demonstration of how good these control lines are. Once you've got your control line, now it is not that windy. Like we've got 8, so let's see the flags, 8, maybe 4 to 8 knots of wind blowing us off right here. Just out there's more wind. But right now, he was just able to do that job and be calm about it because he's got that control line on there holding him. So, very good. Bravo. And big ball fender doing all of the work now. All right, nothing else is touching the boat, and you can see how these can end up on your boat, because even a big sausage fender like that, and this is bigger than normal fenders. Okay, so that's why we like these. Now, next thing we're going to do is shut those alarms up. Okay, so now the difference is he's going to go to neutral, and we see how the boat reacts. We don't have a spring on. This is going to spring back a little bit, and because the wind's blowing off, the boat will rest away from the dock a little. Now, if you have challenging conditions, of course, you can put a midships, you could put a midships line just on here, just to hold it from moving too far.
You could do
but,
it, or I move that one forward.
Yeah, or you could move that forward. But at the moment, she's just going to sit here. We could even now tighten this stern line up, which would be my move. Very nicely. And then that's it. So, all you cats that were like, that's not single-handed because there was someone on the dock, well, there wasn't today.
It wasn't.
And I didn't, but it wasn't me doing it, so I can't claim that I can do it single-handed. That's all David. All right, so we're gonna get fueled up and then we'll get off this dock. Refueling on every boat is a little bit different because some boats have a really good breather system where the air is going to escape out of the tank as fast as the fuel is going to go in. Some are absolutely terrible. So we're about to review how the Sun Odyssey 45 does that for us. But I've had a lot of boats that I have to fill incredibly slowly, like the Lagoon 42s. I've had to fill those really slowly. It is highly annoying, and they take a lot of fuel, and they use a lot of fuel. I'm going to get some comments on that one. Oh my God. Think about how much fuel you've got in your tank and how much roughly liters wise that you're going to need, so that you can watch the pump and you can plan when it's about full to give it a rest and let it catch up. You also got to listen very carefully, because the last thing we want is fuel spurting out all over the boat and going into the sea. We really don't want that. So you listen out for the pump, and I really urge people not to put it just on clipped on auto. Just hold it and be there, because it makes a hell of a mess and it just keeps destroying our oceans. That's filling really well.
Yeah, okay.
And it's coming up to almost full. So we might stop at that. I'm going to have a look, see how many liters it took, and then just top up those last little bits slowly. And it is tough with the charter boats. You need to fill them right up because you've got to give them back full. But with owner boats or with your personal boat, I'd just like, right, 95% full is where I'd want to be, so that I'm not putting fuel into the pipelines and having expanded tanks and all of this sort of stuff.